A Nightmare on Elm Street, except for the children. Chapter 11. Alex was sitting beside Kat's bed when the tattooed teenager regained consciousness. Kat's right arm was heavily bandaged, while an intravenous drip was restoring lost fluids to her body. Alex had managed to slip Kate the hypnosil before the doctors sedated her. Later, a kindly nurse told Alex a little about Kat's condition. "She's lost a lot of blood, much more. I doubt we'd have been able to save her. As for the injuries to her arm, I've seen a lot of suicide attempts before, but nothing like this. There was so many cuts that they needed dozens of stitches for it. She'll be scarred for life. There's nothing we can do about that." "What do you mean about the cuts? Your friend wrote a message on her arm." A message? Alex knew the cuts had been made by Krueger, or at least made under his direction. "What was it?" It said, "1 down, 5 to go. Does that mean anything to you?" No idea. I'll have to ask Kat." "Well, she's been sedated, so you'll have to wait a few hours." That was mid-afternoon. Now it was dark outside, and streetlights cast strange shadows on the roads and sidewalks outside the hospital. "Another groovy Saturday night in Springwood," Kat murmured, as she came around, noticing Alex at her bedside. "How the fuck did I end up here?" "You don't remember?" "I'm not sure. It's getting so I can't tell the nightmares and reality apart. I remember waiting for you outside the burns unit. Then I decided to go inside, see how you and Lloyd were doing. You never came in, at least not while I was awake. You did show up in one of my nightmares while I was with Lloyd." "No, you were in one of mine," Kat insisted. "You were asleep. I saw Krueger cop a feel off of you. He likes you, Alex. He said you were his favorite." "Terrific. My own fan club with Krueger as founding member." Kat looked down at her bandaged arm. "Could be worse." "You almost bled to death," Alex said. She explained about how she and Roy had found Kat outside the burns unit and told her of the message from Krueger. "1 down. Do you think that meant me or Lloyd?" "Lloyd, I guess," Alex decided. "Krueger knew I'd save you." "So did I," Kat said. "I don't bleed to death. I choke in my sleep. It was in my vision, and I know it's going to come true." "You can't be sure." "Yes, I can. Like I'm sure one of us will murder Lloyd in that room. I've already seen it happen, Alex. It's a matter of time when that happens, not if." Kat smiled wanly. "Kinda strange knowing how you're going to die. I mean, we're all going to die one day, but you try to ignore that. Put it to the back of your mind. Pretend it isn't really going to happen. We'd all be basket cases if we thought about it too much. But now I know it's almost here. Fuck, there's so much I haven't done yet." I thought you'd done everything imaginable," Alex said. "Don't believe the hype. I cultivated the image of being the biggest, baddest bitch in Springwood because it suited me. Nobody dare fuck with Kat Walker or she'll eat you alive. That kept me safe, but it kept me apart too. Now it's too late to change. Much too late." "Stop saying that," Alex insisted. "We can beat this bastard, you and me and the others. He doesn't have to win." Kat shook her head. "You can beat him, Alex. I won't be that lucky." A nurse came to check Kat's condition. "We're keeping you in tonight, to be safe. Is there anyone you'd like us to contact? Family members?" Kat grimaced. "No way. The less they know about this, the better. They already think my soul is damned to hell anyways. I don't need their false sympathy." "If that's what you want." "It is," she replied firmly. Once the nurse had gone, Alex couldn't resist asking a question. "Kat, why do you hate your family so much?" "I don't hate them. I pity them. Their faith in God is so absolute, so certain. How can anything be that certain? It's just blind faith. I almost envy them in a way. I'd love to have such complete belief in the afterlife, but I don't. The idea we'll all end up floating around in the clouds with God, being friends, and having a great time for the rest of eternity. It just doesn't sound credible to me. A lovely fairy tale to tell children when their hamster dies, but adults should know better. When I die, I know that's the end. Game over." Every thought, every feeling, every hope, every dream, everything I've ever been or done, it all dies with me. Kat looked away from Alex, her face taut and frightened. And that scares the shit out of me. Maybe your family is right. I'm not that lucky, Kat said, almost smiling. Alex noticed one of the tattoos on Kat's right arm above the bandages. Over a bleeding cross were the words, Jesus is coming, while beneath that was written, everyone look busy. She laughed out loud after reading the second half of the message. She explained why when Kat glared at her. Oh, that one. My first ink. Originally, it was a normal cross and just said, Jesus is coming. I thought my folks would be proud, so I wanted to show my faith to everyone in the tattoo. They freaked and said it was the devil's work. Years later, I went back to the same parlor and had the rest added. And the barbed wire tattoos around your wrist? I wanted the crown of thorns, but that was the best I could get. Kat gave Alex a tour of her other tattoos. The snakes on her back, the angels on either thigh, the other motifs and messages displayed on her skin. Strange to think they're going to kill me soon, she said. Now I'm wishing I'd opted for hearts and flowers, not barbed wire and snakes. That would probably be less painful. You don't know your vision will come true, Alex insisted. There's still a chance you're wrong. What if I went to the cops, told them what's happening? Why would they believe you? Besides, we know they've covered up the truth about Krueger. We can't trust them. I could tell my mom, Alex suggested. We don't agree on almost anything, but she only wants the best for me. Choosing to live at 1428 Elm Street wasn't a great start. Yeah, besides, this would be too much for her. She already thinks I'm lapsing back into bad habits. You're right. Alex held up her arm where a dressing covered the wounds Krueger had made in her first nightmare. If I try to tell my mom this was caused by a murderer who died 2 generations ago, a murderer now trying to kill me in my sleep? Rubber room for Miss Corwin. Yeah, Alex stifled a yawn. Look, I've got to go. That Hypnosil I gave you before will stop you dreaming for another 12 hours. So you're safe tonight. Get some rest and I'll be back in the morning, okay? Okay, Kat agreed. You going home? No, I need to find the others. Need to talk to them. We can't face this freak Krueger on our own. Safety in numbers and all that. I'll see you tomorrow. Sweet dreams. Alex shook her head. Don't even joke about it. Peter's worst fears were coming true. While he sat in a chair staring at the TV, Heather and Chris were snuggled together on the sofa. So far, they'd watched 2 comedies and a thriller. Heather had suggested a slushy teen romance next, and Peter was doing his best to stay awake, but could feel his eyelids drooping already. Chick flicks, the perfect cure for insomnia. Paper-thin plots, doe-eyed heroines, and uplifting soundtracks. Barfarama. For such a babe, Julia Stiles sure made some lame movies. Give me a good Clint Eastwood film any day. Something with a bit of a punch. Peter got up, determined not to have another dream if he did fall asleep in front of this crap. Heather, you got any more of those Hypnosil pills? Upstairs in my room, she said, lifting Chris's arm from around her shoulders so she could stand. I'll go get them. We should all have one, I guess. Peter yawned as she left. I'm going to go get a glass of water from the kitchen. You want anything, Chris? Chris stopped the DVD and shook his head. Nah, I'm good. His attention was caught by basketball highlights on TV. Hey, I wonder who won the state playoffs. Jocks, Peter thought despairingly as he went into the kitchen. We're being stalked by a dead homicidal maniac, and Chris still wants to know the scores from today's games. Like that matters anymore. Peter pulled 2 glasses from a cabinet above the sink and turned on the tap, letting the water run a few seconds. Satisfied with the temperature, he filled both glasses and shut off the tap. He was reaching to switch off the kitchen light when a knock on the back door startled him. Peter dropped both tumblers, each of them shattering on the hard floor, showering the room with glass and water. Fuck! Sorry, a voice called from outside. Peter turned the light back on and carefully picked his way across the glass-strewn floor to the door. He could see Alex outside, rubbing her arms and hoping that she would get inside soon. He could tell she was anxious, hopping from foot to foot. Can I come in? She asked. It's getting cold out here. Peter undid the locks and opened the door, letting her inside before securing the door again. He was about to make a comment about her timing when he noticed the bloodstains on her top and her pants. "What happened to you?" Alex looked down at herself. "God, I'd forgotten. I'm fine. Krueger got to Kat." Peter swallowed, not sure he wanted to know the answer to his next question. "Is she—" "She's okay for now. Her right arm was cut to pieces below the elbow and she nearly bled to death. She's being kept at Springwood General overnight." "That's something, I guess." He listened while Alex recalled what had happened. Chris appeared in the kitchen doorway. "What's all the noise in here?" "Don't come in," Peter warned. "There's broken glass everywhere." "So I can see. What have you been doing in here?" Chris noticed Alex. "Hey, how are you?" "I've been better," Alex admitted. "The blood is Kat's," Peter explained. "Krueger almost killed her." Before Alex could repeat her explanation, Heather was standing behind Chris. "I've got the Jesus, Alex, what happened to you?" Peter sent Alex into the living room with Chris and Heather to retell her story again while he cleaned the mess up in the kitchen. After retrieving all the broken glass and wiping the floor dry, he joined the others in front of the TV. Alex switched off the set despite protestations from Chris. "We have to talk about what we're going to do," she announced. "I know some of you found what I was suggesting this morning hard to believe, but—" "You were right," Chris cut in. "I didn't want to hear what you were saying then, but you were right about us having changed, altered. All three of us experienced that this very afternoon." He told her about the fire at the multiplex, while Peter talked about using his newfound abilities on Johnston, and Heather admitted sneaking her words into Simone's mind. "We can't use these abilities," Alex said once the others had finished. "We have to find a way of suppressing them." She held out the bottle of Hypnosil Heather had brought downstairs. "This is a good start, but all of us have to be taking it for the drug to be effective." "Hold on," Chris said. "Why can't we use our talents? What's wrong with using them?" "Look at where they came from," Alex replied. "If Krueger has brought these abilities out of us, he's done it for reasons of his own. These talents, these gifts, whatever you want to call them, they're not a good thing." "How can you say that? All my life I've been pushed around by my dad, by Coach, by people like them. They forced me to do what they want, to follow their rules. I don't want to do that anymore. Now you're saying I should pretend nothing's changed? You're crazy." "Chris, listen to yourself. This isn't about getting what you want, fulfilling your power fantasies. This is about keeping all of us safe from Krueger." "I can handle that, asshole." "Bullshit. You can't even handle your new ability. What would have happened if Heather and Peter hadn't woken you up in the multiplex? How many people would have died in that fire?" "The sprinklers came on. The smoke alarm caught it." Alex stood up. "You're not in control of this, Chris. Don't pretend that you are. None of us are. I'm scared about what's happening to us, but at least I'm not afraid to admit it." "I'm not afraid of anything," Chris insisted. "Don't try and twist this around to make yourself look like the damned hero." "I'm not." Alex shook her head in amazement. "For fuck's sake, what are you talking about? I never said anything about being a hero." "You're trying to tell us what to do, but you're not the boss of me. Nobody is anymore. Get that straight or else." Alex stepped closer to Chris. "Or else what? You're going to burn me?" Chris stood up, confronting Alex. "I'll do whatever I have to. I'm not being pushed around anymore." "I'm not trying to push you around," Alex insisted. "Can't you see you're being corrupted by this? You all are. Heather used her ability against that girl in the changing room to make herself feel better. Peter attacked Joey Johnston. He bullied the bully." "What's wrong with that?" Chris demanded. "This is turning us into the people we hate. Can't you see that?" "Maybe she's right," Peter began nervously. "Shut the fuck up," Chris snarled at him. "Nobody asked your opinion." "Chris, don't be like this," Heather pleaded, but her words were ignored. "I can be however the fuck I want," he snapped. "Fine," Alex said quietly. "Nobody's going to push you around anymore. You're in charge now. You've got the power. And what you do with it? Start pushing other people around. Congratulations, Chris. You've become exactly what your father always wanted you to be. You're the man now." Chris lashed out with the back of his hand, the blow sending Alex sprawling to the floor. "I'm going to kill you, bitch. I'm going to—" Chris stopped abruptly, realizing what he was doing. What am I doing?" "Exactly what Krueger wants," Alex said. He looked at Heather and then ran from the room. Moments later they heard him burst out of the kitchen and sprint away from the house. "I'm going after him," Heather said. "Peter, stay here and look after Alex, okay?" She was gone before he could agree, hurrying after the distraught Chris. Alex was still lying on the floor, one hand nursing her right cheekbone. "Fuck, that hurts," she winced. "Remind me never to take up boxing, especially with him." "You should put some ice on that," Peter suggested. "Later," she replied. "Right now I'm going to grab a shower. I've been wearing cat's blood all afternoon, and I don't want to fall asleep in these clothes." Heather found Chris sitting on the sidewalk outside his house, head buried in his hands, sobbing. She approached him gingerly, not sure how to comfort him. "Are you okay?" "Do I look okay?" Chris shouted, wiping tears from his face. Heather shrugged. "You look good to me." Chris shook his head. "God, I don't know what came over me in there. Alex kept talking and I saw red. I really wanted to kill her, you know. I wanted to see her burn. The hatred, it was like a ball of flame in my chest. I just wanted to use it against her." He leaned back and looked at the night sky. A few stars peered through the gray and white clouds beneath the moon. "Everything she said was true." "I know." Heather sat beside him on the sidewalk, her feet on the side of the road. "When I was in that changing room at the mall, I could feel the power I had over Simone. I started thinking of all the things I could do. Make her cut off her own hair, hurt herself, even kill herself. It did scare me. But those feelings, they excited me too. It took all my willpower not to do more to Simone, not to hurt her. God knows she's made my life a misery often enough. But once you start down that road, who knows if we can turn back? Scary, isn't it?" Heather reached over and took one of Chris's hands, holding it in her own. "We have to help each other, look after each other. That's the only way we'll get through this." Chris turned to her and smiled. "You want to know something?" She frowned, unsure of what he was going to say. "What?" "I always liked you." "You did?" He nodded, the smile broadening into a grin. "Yeah. I used to see you in the hallway at school. I wanted to talk to you, but, well, what?" Chris looked down. "I was afraid. I didn't think you'd feel the same way." Now it was Heather's turn to smile. "You want to know something?" "What?" "I liked you too. I was too scared to do anything about it. Scared of what the other girls would think. Scared of what my mom would say." "Why? I've seen you out with plenty of jocks." "Yeah, but what?" "None of them were black." "Oh." The smile faded from Chris's face. "You know what it's like in school? Black girls go out with black guys, white girls go out with white guys. And never the two shall meet." "Yeah, but why not?" Heather lifted Chris's hand up to her mouth and kissed it tenderly. "You like me, I like you. Why can't that work if we want it to?" "What's your mom going to say if she sees you kissing a black boy?" "Probably go apeshit. She's always been a white trash racist bitch. That's her problem." "So what's our problem?" Chris asked. Deciding whether we want to go for it?" "You heard what Alex was saying. Krueger's coming for us. We could be dead by tomorrow." He moved closer, shifting his body towards hers. Heather smiled. "So there's no time to waste then, right?" Peter caught himself tapping his fingers on the breakfast counter in the kitchen, listening to the sound of running water upstairs. He couldn't stop thinking about Alex in that shower, the water running across her face and down towards her. Peter shook his head. He didn't want a repeat performance of what happened last night. The image of a woman with scissors for legs, cutting and slicing everything caught between her thighs. Fuck. He was going to be in therapy for years if he couldn't get that shit out of his head soon. Think about something else, anything else, preferably something ass-numbingly boring and utterly asexual. German language lessons, gym class, geography, Mount Rushmore, capitals of the 50 states, the middle names of U.S. presidents, in reverse chronological order, foods that begin with the letter Q, Sesame Street, anything but Alex, her hands rubbing shower gel across her stomach, the suds dribbling downwards and mingling with her. "Hey, Peter?" Alex's voice jolted him back to reality. He went to the stairs and looked up. The bathroom door was ajar, steam creeping out from inside. Yeah? Yeah? I haven't got anything clean to wear. Could you get a top and some jeans from Heather's room? I don't want to drip water everywhere. Okay. Peter went upstairs, pausing on the landing outside the bathroom door. You got any preferences? Nothing pink, Alex called back. Got it. He tried 2 doors before finding Heather's bedroom, the posters on the walls making it easy to identify. Peter nervously sifted through Heather's clothes, eventually selecting a white Gap t-shirt and a well-worn pair of jeans. He rolled the clothes into a bundle and returned to the bathroom door. Where do you want them? Put them on the chair inside the door, thanks. Peter pushed the door open and stepped inside. A cloud of steam filled the air, making it hard to see anything. I can't find the chair, he eventually admitted. That's okay. Leave them by the door and I'll find them when I get out. Cool. Peter tried to leave, but now the way out was lost in the mist. This is going to sound crazy, but I can't find the door either. What are you talking about? Alex shut off the shower. It's gone. I can't find the way out. Peter heard the shower door open behind him. Don't turn around, he told himself. Keep looking for the door. Don't turn around. Keep looking for the door. Well, could you at least hand me a towel? Alex asked. They're by your feet. Peter retrieved a white towel from the floor and held it over his shoulder. Alex took it and began drying herself. Thanks, Alex said. I'm decent. You can turn around now if you want. Okay, Peter replied nervously. But a fresh cloud of steam and mist fogged up his glasses. Peter took them off and rubbed away the moisture. As he did, a flash of movement crossed his vision, and something punched his stomach. Peter looked down and saw 4 metal talons embedded in him. Krueger stepped out of the steam clouds and smiled. Like it hot and wet, do you, Peter? Try this for kicks. He ripped his finger knives away, and blood spurted from the wounds, splashing the tiled walls and floor. Peter sank to his knees, the sounds of Krueger's laughter echoing from the bathroom, mocking the teenager as blood. Hey, no falling asleep, Alex shouted from the stairs. Peter snapped awake, his hands still clasped over his stomach where Krueger's blades had stabbed him. Alex came into the living room, where Peter was slumped on an easy chair. She was dressed in a white t-shirt and a faded pair of jeans, exactly like those Peter had chosen for her in the dream. Alex finished toweling her hair dry and then opened a bottle of Hypnosil from her pocket and threw a pill to him. Take that. If you do fall asleep, we don't want you dreaming. That will give Krueger a chance to manipulate us. You're right. Peter swallowed the pill, downing it with a swig of Coke. Where'd you get the clothes? Borrowed them from Heather's room, Alex replied. Not a perfect fit, but close enough. Hope she won't mind. Before you came downstairs, I was... Peter began. Oh, it doesn't matter. Alex shrugged. Okay. She bent over to pull on her combat boots. Any sign of Chris or Heather yet? No, they haven't. Peter stopped speaking. 2 trickles of blood were dripping from Alex's nostrils. Are you all right? He asked, gesturing at her face. You're bleeding. Alex touched a hand to her face and quickly pulled it away, shocked to see blood on her fingers. I don't understand. I never get nosebleeds. Her words trailed off, her eyes widening. It's Kat. She's dying. How do you know? I can feel it happening, Alex shouted, already running for the door. Come on, we've got to get to the hospital. We've got to wake her up. Kat opened her eyes and knew she was dreaming. For a start, everything in the hospital that had been white when she fell asleep was now black. The sheets on her bed, the walls and floors, all of them were pitch black. The institutional fluorescent lights in the ceiling had been replaced with red tubes, while black and red candles dripped wax from brackets on the walls. Either she was dreaming, or somebody had given this place one hell of a goth horror makeover while she slept. So much for the Hypnosil, Kat muttered. She examined the bandage on her arm, watching as blood from the wound soaked through the dressing, so the words, 1 down, 5 to go, were clearly visible. I get the message, she shouted, her voice echoing around the room. Kat pulled back the covers and stood up, the hospital gown clinging to her body. It was hot in there, boiling hot, and sweat was soaking through the starchy cotton fabric. Instead of the usual bitter antiseptic, she could smell something else, fear and iron, slaughterhouse scents. She could hear a woman's voice calling for help in the distance. "Alex, is that you?" Kat shouted back. "Are you okay?" But no reply came. She ventured out into the corridor. Another scream cut through the air, closer this time, filled with pain and anguish. "Help me! Somebody please!" Kat ran along the hall towards the voice. The nearer she got, the darker her surroundings became. Soon there was no light except for a yellow glow ahead, spilling from a doorway. Kat slowed as she reached the door. It led to a spiral staircase of black metal descending into clouds of steam, the mist obscuring whatever was below. "Alex, are you still there?" "Down here! Hurry!" Kat remembered a gesture, something she had done thousands of times as a child, even though her family wasn't Catholic, the sign of the cross. She had denied any sort of faith since puberty, refusing to admit she still believed, buried that fragment of the past deep inside herself. But now it came flooding back. It's just fear, Kat thought. I'm afraid of dying. In any other circumstance, I'd laugh at myself for doing this, but now... She reached a hand upwards, touching the fingertips to her forehead, then down to her chest, up and across to her left breast, then over to her right. "May God have mercy on my soul," she whispered, then slowly began descending the spiral staircase. Within seconds, the mist had swallowed her whole. Alex and Peter ran the 2 miles to Springwood General, gasping for breath by the time they arrived. A burly security guard at the front desk tried to refuse them entry, his hand lingering by a revolver holstered on one hip. "It's after midnight. No visitors allowed into the hospital after 10, let alone after midnight. Unless you're suffering a medical emergency of your own, I must ask you to leave." Alex shoved her way past the guard, but he caught hold of Peter's arm and refused to let the youth go. Alex hesitated, unsure of what to do. "Just go!" Peter shouted. "You gotta wait, Kat. Go!" Alex nodded and ran for the stairs, leaving Peter behind. The guard punched an alarm button on the wall. "Your friend won't get far," he told Peter. "We've got somebody patrolling each floor of this place." At the bottom of the spiral staircase lurked a dimly lit industrial boiler room, all clinking chains and dripping water. Kat recognized it from Alex's description. This was Krueger's domain, his home in the realm of nightmares. She had been lured here to face him, just like her vision. "A lamb to the slaughter," a man whispered in the dark. "Sacrificial lamb." Kat recognized Krueger's voice. Beyond his words, she could hear something else, the familiar sound of metal being scraped back and forth across metal. Where did she hear that sound before? Sundays after church, of course. The whole family gathered around the table while her father proudly sharpened the carving knife. A lamb cried out in the distance, frightened and alone. Metal flashed in the dark, and the lamb's cries were cut short. Something splashed nearby, wet and warm. Kat looked down to see a pool of blood spreading across the floor to her bare feet. "Don't show you're scared," she told herself. "Don't give this fucker the satisfaction." "Come and face me, Krueger," she shouted. "Let's get this over with." "There's no rush, Catherine." Her dad emerged from the shadows, speaking in Freddy's voice, the bloody carving knife held in his hands. "We've got all night to get to know each other better. You and I are going to be such good friends, such special friends." "Fuck you, you're not my father." "How can you say that?" Her dad moved closer, one hand grabbing Kat by the chin. He tilted her face towards him, staring deep into her eyes. "You know, I've always had special feelings for you, Catherine." "Stop calling me Catherine. My name is Kat." "But you're my special little girl, Catherine. Don't you want to have fun?" "You're not my dad. This isn't real. It's only a nightmare." Kat closed her eyes, shutting out the image tormenting her. "It's just another nightmare." "Open your eyes, bitch," Krueger snarled. Kat could see his fingerknives pressing against her chest, hear the blade slicing through the flimsy material of her hospital gown. She could feel his hot breath on her face, smell the putrid, rotting stench of his presence. "Look at me! I said look at me, bitch!" Kat opened her eyes. Krueger had stripped away the gown, leaving her naked, but she refused to cover herself. "I'm not ashamed of my body," she said. "You can't frighten me that way." He laughed at her, rejoicing in Kat's defiance. "All those tattoos, all those holes you've had put in your body, all that pain. Would you like some more? This isn't real. This is only a nightmare, she maintained. Tell yourself that all you like. It won't save you from me. Krueger gestured at her body. Let the pain begin. Kat could sense something moving on her back, something sliding across her skin. She peered over a shoulder and gasped. The 2 snake tattoos were coming to life as they had done in her vision. The heads burst from her skin, their eyes blinking, forked tongues flicking outward as the reptiles hissed at her. Then the rest of their bodies detached themselves, sliding across her skin, curving around her torso. My, what pretty pictures you have on you, Krueger taunted. Let's see what else they can do. He gestured again, and Kat screamed in pain. A circle of barbed wire appeared around each of her wrists, replacing the tattoos that had been there. She watched aghast as the circles began to tighten, metal barbs digging into her flesh, cutting and gouging, burying themselves further and further into each wrist, scraping against bones. What else? Krueger asked rhetorically. What about the rest of them? Kat screamed again as her other tattoos came to life, each image bursting from the skin, exposing the flesh beneath, blood seeping from every wound, draining down her legs and poiling at her feet. The snakes were passing her breasts now, riding the skins upward to coil around her neck. She tried to pull them away, but the barbed wire circle slicing into her wrist had closed to only an inch in diameter, crippling her hands. Krueger snapped his fingers, and the barbed wire bracelets contracted still further, cutting through bone and sinew and tendon, until there was nothing left to cut. 2 useless lumps of flesh and bone fell to the boiler room floor, splashing in the crimson puddle around Kat's legs. She howled in agony as blood spurted from the stumps where her wrist had been. Look, Mommy, no hands, Krueger announced, laughing at his own joke. Since you enjoy getting your body pierced, let's add a few more extra holes. Alex raced up the stairs to the floor where Kat was being kept overnight. As Alex reached the doorway, a hand grabbed her from behind. Where the hell do you think you're going? A thick-set female security guard with a deep voice demanded. My friend's in there, Alex gasped, pointing through the door. She needs help. Come on, we've only got seconds to save her. Nonsense, the guard replied tersely. She tapped the metal name tag on her uniform. Mandy Banks. I'm in charge here, not you. I'm quite sure the doctors and nurses have got everything under control. They don't need you. Alex slammed her boot down on the guard's foot, forcing a howl of pain from the hefty woman. But the guard kept hold of Alex, refusing to let her go. You'll pay for that, you little shit. Let me go, Alex screamed at her captor. Kat's dying while you're keeping me here, you stupid bitch. A scream ripped through the ward, a cry filled with agony and sorrow. What the hell? The guard relaxed her grip and Alex was gone, running inside. Banks hurried after her, calling for backup on her radio. This is Mandy on 3. I need every available body up here. We got some little maniac trying to break into one of the wards. I am in pursuit. No! Banks pulled aside the curtain around one of the beds. She staggered backwards, shocked by the scene in front of her. Alex had collapsed and was sobbing on the floor, hands covering her face. On the bed was the naked body of a teenage girl. No, not the body, Banks thought, correcting herself, but the naked corpse of a teenage girl. The hands were missing, having apparently been sheared off at the wrists, yet there was no blood visible on the bed. Almost every square inch of skin on the torso, arms, and legs of the corpse was obscured by metal piercing studs, hundreds, even thousands of them. Angry red bruises were visible around the neck, suggesting the victim had been strangled. But most disturbing of all was the message seemingly painted in blood on the wall behind the bed. 2 down, 4 to go. The security guard turned away and vomited it, retching until she had nothing left to expel, and then vomited some more. Chapter 12. Alex spent the rest of Saturday night explaining herself at Springwood Police Station. How had she known Kat was in danger? I felt it, sensed it, she told them. Who did this to Kat? You wouldn't believe me. What did the message on the wall mean? Silence. The same questions over and over and over. The cops brought in her mom, hoping Joyce might be able to get some answers from the girl, but with no more success. Finally, Sheriff Williams took Alex aside in one of the interview rooms. His face was careworn and friendly, his words soothing. "Look, Alex, I know what's going on. I recognize the signs. A group of teenagers, each of them outsiders in their own way, square pegs, if you like. The 6 of you cut school and get into trouble. One of you gets hurt and the rest clam up, refusing to say what really happened. Now you're being picked off, one by one. This isn't the first time this has happened in my town. I know. It can be stopped. It can be prevented." Alex shook her head. "It's too late for us." "It's never too late. We can help you if you'll let us." "I tried to tell one of your officers before, but he wouldn't listen." Williams rested a hand on her shoulder. "I'm listening now." "Don't touch me." The sheriff withdrew his hand hurriedly. He began pacing the interview room. "I can't pretend I understand why this is happening. Being a teenager, it's just a difficult time. I used to be one myself a long time ago, if you can believe that. You get mixed up, think you see things that aren't there, think you know more than you do. You don't want to trust anyone, but these things, they can get out of hand. We've all seen what happens. High school students killing each other, suicide pacts and guns, and..." He stopped pacing. "I just don't want to see that happen to you, Alex. I don't want to see that happen here in Springwood." "Am I under arrest?" "No, of course not. The guard at the hospital said it was impossible for you to have harmed the Harris girl the way she was, and within just a few seconds you were out of sight. Security cameras confirm your movements through the hospital. Sadly, they didn't have them in her ward. We don't know who or what killed that girl, but it wasn't you." "Then can I go?" Alex asked impatiently. "If you really want to," Williams said. Alex was already heading for the exit. The sheriff called for her to halt. "Look, Alex, if you need someone to talk to, spare me the I care about you routine, okay? You don't know me, and you certainly don't give a shit about me or any of my friends. If you did, you'd have warned us about him instead of covering it up." Alex took a step towards the sheriff. "Did you honestly think if nobody ever mentioned his name again, he'd simply disappear? Did you really believe something that evil doesn't endure, doesn't keep searching for another way to escape? Him? You mean..." Alex laughed bitterly. "You can't even bring yourself to say his name out loud, can you? You fucking coward. Kat is dead. Lloyd is in a coma. How many more of my friends are going to die before this is over? How many more victims because you didn't do your job? Because you didn't warn us? And you wonder why I don't cooperate? Fuck you." She stormed from the room, pushing past her mom in the corridor, and running from the building, running as fast as she could. Peter spent much of Saturday trying to find out what had happened inside the hospital the previous night. The security guard had kept him by the front doors, and he was left frustrated at not knowing what was going on. When the police cars arrived, Peter knew Kat must be dead. The look on the faces of the cops attending the scene underlined that fact. Their glassy eyes and colorless skin, a mute testimony to the horrors found upstairs. Peter was briefly questioned at the hospital and released, dismissed as a minor player in events. He hung around outside long enough to see Alex bundled into a police car and taken away. Soon afterwards, a black body bag was wheeled past. "Never seen anything like that in my life," the man pushing the gurney muttered. "What could do that?" Krueger had killed Kat. Peter knew that much for certain. But few details were released beyond official confirmation that a female patient at Springwood General had died during the night in suspicious circumstances. Her name would not be released until the family had been informed. Meanwhile, a police investigation into the incident was being launched. Peter arrived home after dawn to find his father slumped unconscious in front of the television, a sports channel still blaring from the screen. "The old bastard doesn't even realize I never got home," Peter thought. He couldn't care less if I'm dead or alive. Peter went up to his room, took another Hypnosil, and collapsed into a dreamless sleep. It was Alex's mom who woke him on Sunday morning, arguing with Peter's father. Their raised voices brought Peter back downstairs, still rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "What's going on?" An upset middle-aged woman was standing at the front door, refusing to leave. She saw Peter and pushed past his father. "Do you know my daughter, Alexandra?" "Alex?" "Yeah, that's her. Do you know where she is?" "Sorry, I don't. I haven't seen her since last night at the hospital." "Hospital?" Peter's father scowled. "What's this about a hospital?" Alex's mom shook her head. I saw her after that, at the police station. She was very upset about what happened to that poor girl. I thought she might know where Alex is now. She ran away from me last night, and I haven't seen her since. The police say they can't list her as missing until she's been gone for a day, 24 hours. But that could be too late. Peter grabbed his jacket from a hook by the front door. I'll look for her. But his father grabbed Peter by the arm, refusing to let him leave. You're not going anywhere, not without my permission. But, Dad... Forget it. I don't know what's been going on round here. As usual, Peter thought. But I'm not letting you out of my sight. You have chores to do. I don't believe you, Alex's mom sputtered. My daughter is missing? Your son has offered to help find her? And you're more concerned about his chores? What kind of father are you? Lady, don't tell me how to look after my son. Well, somebody should. Plainly, you haven't got a clue what these children have been up to. Did you know one of them died early this morning? Peter's father began to speak, but nothing came out of his mouth, surprise overtaking him. Did you know Peter and his friends have been suspended from school after what happened on Friday? Alex's mom stepped closer, jabbing a finger into his chest. Do you know anything at all about your son? Peter's arm was released as his father rounded on Miss Corwin. Now listen to me, lady. I don't care what you think you know or don't know. I don't have to stand here in my own home while you accuse me of being a bad parent. Get your stuck-up ass out of my house and leave me and my son alone. Maybe if you were a better parent yourself, you'd have a better idea where your daughter is right now. Did you think about that? Peter didn't need another opportunity. He bolted out the door, running along Elm Street, ignoring the curses and threats shouted after him by his father. I'll worry about the old man later, he decided. Right now I have to find Alex. She's the only one making any sense in all of this mess. He went to Heather's house first. Chris and Heather were both there, unaware of what was going on. You and Alex were gone when we came back here, Chris said, holding hands with Heather at the front door. I owe Alex an apology. It didn't take a genius to figure out what Heather and Chris had been doing since last night. So you haven't heard what happened to Kat? No, Heather admitted. I was planning to visit her in the hospital later. Don't bother, Peter snapped. She's dead. Dead? Chris shook his head. What are you talking about? Krueger got her. Alex and I tried to stop him, but we were too late. We might have made it in time if you guys had been there. Heather was trying to absorb the news about Kat. Are you sure? I hope whatever you were doing last night was worth it, Peter snarled. There's only 4 of us left now. Why don't you think about that while I'm looking for Alex? He stalked off, knowing it wasn't Chris or Heather's fault that Kat was dead, but he needed somebody to blame besides Krueger, somebody human to vent his frustrations upon. He'd apologize to Chris and Heather later, once he'd calmed down. In the meantime, he still had to find Alex. Joey was spoiling for a fight. He'd been humiliated at the mall yesterday, attacked by some sneaky bastard too chicken to show his face. What kind of gutless turd hits you in the face with a tennis racket and then hides? A real man would stand and fight. That's what Joseph Johnston Sr. had taught him. The times he'd bothered to come home between month-long trips driving his rig across America, that is. That's what Joey had told the other kids whenever he was growing up, that his pop was a truck driver. It sounded better than admitting his father was back in jail for armed robbery and manslaughter. Yeah, his old man had always been a stand-up guy, never afraid to face anyone, even in prison. That was why he'd bled to death in the showers one day, after getting into a brawl and having a 6-inch shank shoved through his throat. Joey was driving around Springwood in the one thing his pop had left him, a 1980s Cadillac. It was a bucket of rust and drank oil like a hobo drinks gut rot. But the car was still Joey's pride and joy. He almost always felt like a real man when he was behind the wheel. But even cruising the streets of Springwood and laughing at the faithful as they came out of church wasn't shifting the chip off his shoulder today. He wanted some payback. It took the sight of that geek O'Mahony crossing the road to put a smile back on Joey's face. He gunned the engine into life and followed the nerd along Elm Street. O'Mahony tried to run, but it did him no good. Joey tailed him to the back gates of Springwood High, nodding as his quarry jumped the fence and sprinted into the school grounds. Perfect. They wouldn't be disturbed there. Joey couldn't have chosen a better place himself. He left the car out on the road and vaulted the fence, hurrying after the little shit. O'Mahony scurried from door to door, trying to find a way inside without success. Joey eventually trapped him in a narrow covered walkway between 2 blocks, the area thick with the stench of rotting food seeping from the school's cafeteria dumpsters nearby. "Please, I don't want any trouble," the wimp began, his face filled with fear. Joey snorted. "Then you shouldn't have hit me when my guard was down on Friday, should you? My nuts are black and blue thanks to you." "You broke my glasses," O'Mahony protested. "Poor baby. You've got another pair on, so what's the problem? I don't want to hurt you." "Hurt me?" Joey laughed at that long and hard. "You got me with the sucker punch under the bleachers. This time I'm ready for you, Four Eyes." He advanced on O'Mahony, whose face began frowning. "What the fuck are you doing, shitting your pants already?" "Not exactly," O'Mahony gasped. His hands reached past Joey, beckoning something towards them. Joey glanced over his shoulder in time to see the dumpster rolling towards him, as if someone was pushing it. He jumped out of the way, rolling across the ground to avoid being crushed by the heavy metal box. "Who did that?" Joey demanded, looking around to see who was helping the nerd. "I did," O'Mahony replied, a smile on his lips, courage building in his voice. "It works. It actually works." "What works? What the hell are you talking about?" "This!" Joey felt himself being lifted into the air, as if an invisible hand had picked him up. "What the fuck?" He turned his face to look at O'Mahony. The pale-faced geek was gesturing at him, guiding his movements through the air. "This is some kind of trick." "No tricks, merely mind over matter." "When I get down from here," Joey began, but his mouth suddenly closed as O'Mahony clenched a fist. "Shut your trap, Johnston," the geek snapped. "I've got the mind, and you don't matter anymore. You'll never hassle me or any other kid again after today. You understand?" Joey couldn't open his mouth, so he shook his head angrily. O'Mahony closed his fist tighter, and Joey felt his throat constricting, his nostrils being pinched shut by an unseen force. He tried to force his mouth open, but it did no good. He couldn't breathe in or out. Already he could feel his heart hammering inside his chest, the veins in the side of his forehead throbbing in protest. "You come near me or another kid again and I'll make you piss your pants in front of every girl at school. You got that?" Joey was too busy fighting for breath to acknowledge what O'Mahony was saying. "I see you need another demonstration." O'Mahony blinked and Joey felt his bladder lose control, a stream of urine soaking the front of his faded jeans, running down his legs. O'Mahony took another step closer. "Now do we have an understanding?" Joey nodded helplessly. "That's better. You should be grateful I don't hurt you the same way you've hurt me over the years. But threats are so more effective than actual pain. Don't you agree?" Joey nodded again. Peter smiled broadly. His hands fell to his sides and Joey collapsed to the ground, his mouth and nostrils open again and gasping for breath. He watched O'Mahony walking away and did nothing to stop him. Joey didn't feel like fighting anymore. It was another 3 hours before Peter found Alex sitting on the bench in the Zen garden at the hospital. She saw him approaching and smiled. "How'd you find me?" "I looked everywhere else, then I remembered this place." He sat beside her on the bench. "You were talking with Kat here yesterday, so I figured you might come back." Alex nodded. She told him what Krueger had done to Kat, the message on the wall. "There's something I don't understand," she said. "I gave her enough Hypnosil to make sure she didn't dream last night. It should have been impossible for Krueger to hurt her." Peter let his eyes wander across the patterns in the white pebbles. "Maybe it works the same way as our new abilities. As long as one of us is dreaming, all of us are vulnerable." He thought back to the previous night. "Last night, when you were having a shower, I dozed off at Heather's place. God, you don't think—" "No," Alex replied quickly. "What happened to Kat was long after I'd woken you up. Maybe it was Chris or Heather. I don't know." Peter nodded a little happier. "Maybe the sedatives the hospital gave Kat diminished the effectiveness of the Hypnosil." "Maybe," Alex sighed. "Too many questions, not enough answers." She glanced at the hospital through a gap in the trees. "Krueger's got something planned for each of us. I guess Kat wasn't part of his plans." "Your mom's looking for you," Peter said. "She had a huge fight with my dad. She can really dish it out." "Runs in the family," Alex said sheepishly. "I know. Speaking of Chris, he wants to apologize to you. You were right. he was wrong, something like that. Like I didn't already know that. Him and Heather, I think they're, Alex grinned. They're, I never knew boys could be so coy. They're sleeping together, all right? Happy now? Peter could feel himself blushing. We don't talk about things like that in my family. Do you talk with your dad about anything? Are you kidding? Grunting passes for conversation with him? I did run into... Peter's voice trailed off, a shadow passing over his face. You ran into who? Doesn't matter. Alex got up and stretched. Well, guess I better go face the music. You want me to walk you home? Next, you'll be offering to carry my books to class, she teased. Whatever, Peter complained sulkily. I was just asking. Yes, I would like you to walk me home, Alex said. Okay. Peter stood up and followed her out of the garden. I could hold your hand if you wanted. One step at a time, Romeo. Joyce was standing by the front door, chewing her fingernails when Peter and Alex emerged from the gathering dusk. The two teenagers were strolling along Elm Street, a small space between them. Joyce called to them as they approached the house. You found her! Thank God, Peter! Thank you for bringing her home to me. Don't worry about it, he said before turning to Alex. Well, I better go face my old man. Dad's probably ready to kill me by now. If your father gives you any trouble, you come back here, Joyce offered. Thanks, but I'll be okay, Peter smiled. I used to be so scared of people like my dad, but there's worse things in this world than him. Before you go, Peter, I have to tell you something, Joyce said. Principal Shea called round earlier. You, Alex, and 2 other students are being suspended for cutting classes. You have got to go into school at noon tomorrow to get formal notification. Peter smiled at Alex. Guess I'll see you outside the principal's office. High noon, she replied before going inside. See you then. Joyce waved goodbye to Peter as he left, then closed the front door. Her daughter was already making for the stairs. Where do you think you're going? Bed. I'm exhausted. I haven't slept for what feels like days. Then another few minutes shouldn't make any difference. We have to talk, young lady. Joyce caught Alex by the arm and led her into the kitchen. She sat the teenager down at the table and took the seat opposite. Where have you been all day? I've been worried sick about you. Look, Mom, I'm sorry. I know the last couple days haven't been great. Alex, I don't even know who you are anymore, Joyce said, trying to hold on to her emotions. When you pushed past me at the police station last night, you were like a different person. What's happening to you? I'm changing. Growing up. Facing my responsibilities. Don't lie to me, Alex. You're running away from something. Tell me who or what it is. Maybe I can help. She reached forward, taking her daughter's hands between her own. Whatever is scaring you, we can face it together, honey. You must know there's nothing I wouldn't do for you. Yes, but what? Just tell me. You wouldn't understand, and you certainly wouldn't believe me. Try. Alex sighed. There's a monster in our nightmares. He wants to kill us, to hurt us. But he also wants to use us, I think. He says we're his playthings. He killed Kat. He put Lloyd in a coma. Now he's coming for the rest of us. You, Peter, and these other 2 students, Heather and Christopher? Chris, yes. What kind of monster? Joyce tried to keep the doubt from her eyes, but she'd never been able to hide anything from Alex. They were too much alike. You don't believe me, Alex said flatly. I knew you wouldn't. It's not that I don't believe you, honey, Joyce pleaded. I'm simply trying to understand what you're trying to tell me. Forget it. We're both wasting our time. Alex snapped, standing up. I'm going to bed, okay? Alex, wait. Joyce refused to let her daughter leave yet. I've made you an appointment for tomorrow with a doctor. He says he can help. What kind of doctor? His name is Topman, and... I asked what kind of doctor. A psychiatrist, Joyce admitted. He thinks you and the others might be suffering from some sort of group hysteria, sharing a collective delusion where you witness things that aren't real but you think that they are. You don't get it, do you? Alex snarled. This creature that's hunting us, stalking us, he's real as you or me or Dr. fucking Todman. He suggests a course of therapy and treatment, perhaps residential. Where? At a facility on the outskirts of town. It's called Weston Hills. No fucking way. Please, Alex, this is for your own. I am not losing my mind, Mom. I know what I saw, and I know what's happening to me. So you and Dr. Taubman can make all the little plans and schemes you want, but I won't end up in a rubber room with a straitjacket for company. It's not going to happen." Alex stormed from the room, ran up the stairs, and into her bedroom, slamming the door shut. "Oh, Alex," Joyce whispered, "what have I done?" Okay, this has been chapters 11 and 12 of A Nightmare on Elm Street, Suffer the Children, an original novel by David Bishop. I hope everybody's enjoying it so far. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Please click that like button. Drop me some comments. I'd love to hear from you. Get any criticism from you, any thoughts, any questions. Be sure to click the bell so you're always notified of new chapters. I'm really enjoying this book, and I'm looking forward to the next one, Jason X, The Experiment. It is by Pat Cadigan, and it is a direct sequel to Jason X the movie. In fact, Pat Cadigan wrote the Jason X novelization of the movie, and then he wrote Jason X the Experiment. So he's the perfect author to write the direct sequel to the movie, and I'm really looking forward to this next book. All right, please spread the word out there on social media, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, wherever. Let's let more people know that these books are available. Let's get some fans in here. I want to share these with every fan possible. Everybody have a great night and try to sleep well.